Good afternoon, everybody. My topic today will be VAIDIKA MARGA in SANGAM literature. It is said, Tenmori, Tenmori, Vadamori, Vadamori. That is, Tamil is like honey and Samskrita never fades. It's a famous saying. Both the languages Sanskrit and Tamil are the basis of our Indian culture. It is well known that Tamil is one of the longest surviving classical languages in the world. The earliest period of available Tamil literature, the Sangam literature, is dated from 300 BCE to 300 CE. The earliest epigraphic records found on rock edicts date from around the 3rd century BCE. The Sangam period marked the golden period of Tamil literature, which refers to the prevalent Sangam legends claiming literary academies lasting thousands of years, giving the name to the corpus of literature. These poems were later collected into various anthologies and edited with colophons added by the anthologists and annotators around 1000 CE. Sanskrit is one of the most ancient languages of the world. As the language was made perfect and refined by the grammarians, it was named Samskrita. This language is considered to be the mother of all Indian languages except Tamil by scholars of impartial views. But they do reflect on the influence of Sanskrit since all these languages flourished together. Tamil and Sanskrit were considered as the two eyes of the same face and hence were studied with equal interest by our ancestors in Tamil Nadu. In fact, the Vedic culture, its rituals and practice were in vogue during the Sangam age, and they got incorporated in the works of the poets of those times. Today's talk is an assessment and an analysis of the same. I shall now divide the lecture into 4 sections, namely Sangam literature, VAIDIKA MARGA, VAIDIKA MARGA reflected in the Sangam literature, and Sangam culture in contemporary Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu housed the 3 Sangams during ancient times. They were the Talaichangam, Idaichangam, and Kadaichangam. During the Talaichangam period, there existed many grammatical and literary works as per the information gleaned from the Tolkappiyam. But these are not available today. Even among the Idaichangam works, only Tolkappiyam, a grammatical work authored by Tolkappiyar, is available. The text contains about 1610 verses or sutras in 3 sections, namely Ezhuthadikaram with 480 verses, Cholladikaram with 465 verses, and Poruladikaram with the remaining 665 verses. The works of the Kadaichangam which are available now are all literary works, namely Pattupattu, Ettutogai, and Padinan Kizhkanakku Noolgal. The texts on Pattupattu are Tirumurugatrupadai, Porunar Atrupadai, Siruban Atrupadai, Peruban Atrupadai, Mullaipattu, Madurai Kanji, Nedunal Vadai, Kurunjipattu, Pattinapalai, and Malaipadu Kadam, also known as Kootrar Atrupadai. The Ettutogai texts are Natrinai, Kurundogai, Ainguru Nuru, Paripadal, Kalittogai, Agananuru, Paditrupattu, and Purananuru. These texts are compilations of songs sung by different poets over a period of time in the Agam and Puram genres. Among the 8 texts, the last 2 are of the Puram genre, while the rest are of the Agam type. The 18 poems collectively termed as Padinan Kizhkanakku are Tirukural, Naladiyar, Paramori, Tirikadagam, Nanmanikadigai, Sirupanchamulam, Eladi, Achara Kovai, Mudumori Kanji, Kalavali Narpadu, Inithu Narpadu, Inna Narpadu, Tinaimalai 150, Aindinai 70, Kainilai, Aindinai 50, Tinaimori 50, and Karnarpadu. Among these 18 works, the first 12 deal mostly with the Purattinai and sparsely with the Agathinai, whereas the later 6 works are based on Agathinai alone. Some of these 18 are debated to be of a later period. That being said about the Sangam literature, let us now move on to the VAIDIKA MARGA. The Vedas are the basis for all the Sanskrit literature. The Vedas not only contain philosophical and spiritual information but range widely from arts, sciences, and so on. Therefore, scholars declare that one can find information regarding anything in them. Vedas are said to have been taught through oral tradition, and therefore Thiruvalluvar calls it Ezhudha Kilavi. As we all know, Vedas are 4 in number, namely Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. This has been recorded in the works of Sangam period, such as the words of Muranchiyur Mudinathanayar as Nalveda Neritirinum and Nettimayar as Nalvedathu. In order to understand the meaning of the mantras, the grammar involved, etc., one needed separate text to guide them. Thus, the Vedangas was formed. There are 6 in number, namely Siksha, Vyakarna, Chandas, Nirukta, Jyotisha, and Kalpasutras. In addition to the Vedas and Vedangas, the texts on Mimamsa, Nyaya, Dharma Shastras, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas are the literary works that expound the Vaidika Marga, as we are going to see now. The Varnas and Ashrama Dharma. People are divided into 4 Varnas as Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. The 4 ashramas prescribed for the people are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. The 6 activities prescribed for a Brahmana are Yajanam, to perform yajnas, Yajanam, perform rituals for others, Danam, give charity, Pratigraham, accept charity, Adhyapanam, learn the Vedas, and Adhyayanam, teach it to the others. Kshatriyas were ordained 5 activities like learning the Vedas, performing yajnas, giving charity, protecting the citizens, and punishing wrongdoers. Vaishyas also had to learn the Vedas, perform yajna, give charity, protect the cattle, involve in agriculture and trade. A Shudra must engage himself in agriculture, carpentry, sculpting, and so on. The Upanayana is compulsory for the first 3 Varnas, and so they are called Dvijaha, or twice born. They have to recite the mantra thrice every day as prescribed in the scriptures. By such practice, the Brahmanas attain greatness of mind, the Kshatriyas gain strength of body, and Vaishyas acquire acumen to procure immense wealth, for only through such gains can they help others to prosper. All creatures on this earth possess a body and Atma. Yama is the one who separates the Jiva from the body at the time of one's death. The means for a Jiva to reach the Pitraloka is provided by the last rites performed by one's progeny. Moreover, the food needed for the Pitras in the Pitraloka is the Pinda offered during Shraddha. When a person performs a Homa to please a deity and makes an offering into the fire, Lord Agni passes it on to the concerned deity. The gods convey their acceptance of the people's prayers in the form of rain. The deities were discussed in detail by the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Puranas are Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, Balarama, and Skanda. The pleasure and pain that one experiences in this life depends upon the amount of good and bad karmas performed by him in his previous lives. Therefore, if one has to live a happy life later, he has to perform good karmas in this birth. The greatest enemy for realizing God is one's desire. So, one must strive to overcome desire, for when desire perishes, one is elevated to the state of moksha. Having outlined the classification of Sangam literature in the Vaidika Marga, we will now move on to point out how Sangam literature has aligned with the precepts and practices of Vaidika Marga with some interesting references. Nakirar in his Tirumuruga Trippadai records that the twice-born Irupirappalar learned the Vedas comprising of 6 Angas in 48 years. Arunan Giretti Ilamai Nalliyand Arinil Kalpiya Aranavil Kolgai Moondravai Kurita Mutti Chelvat Irupirappalar Poludarindu Nuvala. Only after the Upanayana is one fit to learn the Vedas. The Dharma Shastra say that the time limit for learning one Veda is 12 years. Upanayanam Brahmanasya Ashtame Dvadasha Varshani Ekavede Brahmacharyam Charet Prati Dvadasha Va Sarveshu. Meaning that every 12 years you can learn one Veda. Moolan Kirar in the 166th verse of the Purananuru registers the fact that there are 4 Vedas, 6 Sangas, and they originated from Lord Shiva. Nandraind Nil Nirmat Sadai, Mudu Mudalvan Vain Pogad, Ondru Purinda, Irerendin, Arnuranda Oru Mudunul. Similarly, the Taittiriya Upanishad ascertains the fact that the whole universe originated from the God as Yatova Imani Jayante. The Brahma Sutra of Vyasa too affirms the same through the words Sastra Yonitvat. Otalandayar in the Ainguru Nuru establishes that the Vedas talk about Dharma as Aramburi Arumarai. The Yajnas and Yagashalas mentioned in the Vedas were performed and constructed by kings like Mudukudumi Peruvaladi Chola and Karikal Peruvalathan. As noted by the Purananuru as Eruvai Nugachi, Yupa Nadundun, Veda Velvi Torin Muditadum. There existed 4 Varnas and each had a number of occupations assigned to them. Tolkapiyar has mentioned this in the Poruladikaram of his Tolkapiyam as Nule Andanarakuriya, Padayum Arasarakuriya, Vaisigan Perume, Vaniga Valkai, Velan Mandarku Urdun Alladu, Illena Mori Piravagai Nigalchi. The Gautama Dharma Sutra and other Dharma Sutras also mention the various Varnas and also the activities assigned to them. The Ramayana declares that those 6 activities are ordained for the Brahmanas, while the first 5 activities can be done unlimitedly, but how much ever possible, a Brahmana must curtail himself from accepting charity. Swakarma nirata nityam Brahmana vijitendriyaha dhanadhyayana shilascha samyatascha pradigrahe. Commenting on the above verse, Govindaraja also says Samyataha Sankuchitaha. Sangam literature and Vaidika Marga go hand in hand with regards to the 4 ashramas. As a brahmachari wore a yagnopavita made of 9 threads and 3 strands. He learned the Vedas in 48 years, mentions Nakirar in his Tirumuruga Trippadai. Enadi Nedungandanar in his Kurundagai declares that a brahmachari bears a palasha tree's branch in hand, a small kamandala, and partakes a restricted diet. Sembu Murukin Nalnar Kalaindu Tandoda Piditha Tar Kamandalathu Padiva Undi Parpana Magane. The marriage ritual is of 8 types: Brahmam, Prajapatyam, Arsham, Daivam, Gandharvam, Asuram, Rakshasam and Paishacham, as listed in the Gautama Dharma Sutra and such works. In the Kalavial section of the Tolkapiyam, it is said that the last 3 types, namely Asuram, Rakshasam and Paishacham, belong to the Kaikilai Thinai. The first 4 types of marriage belong to the Perundinai, and Gandharvam is equal to Kalavu. Munnaya Mundrum Kaikilai Kurippe, Pinnar Nangum Perundinai Perume, Mudaloda Punanda Yador Mena, Tavalarun Chirappin Ainilam Perume. Sage Vyasa gives an interesting information in the Mahabharata that if there is no one to give the bride and Kanyadana, then the bride could do the ritual by herself. Atmano Bandhuhu Atmaiva Gatihi Atmaiva Cha Atmanaha Atmanaiva Atmano Danam Kartum Arhasi Dharmataha. See how the same dictum is presented by Tolkapiyar as Kodupor Endrium Karanam Munde. If 2 persons walk 7 steps together, then they are considered to be friends forever. Records Mudattamak Kanniyar in the Porunar Atripadai as Kalin Edadi Pinchindru. Likewise, the Mahabharata also mentions the ritual as Satam Saptapadam Mitramahuhu Santaha Kulochitaha. Tirikadagam states that a grihastha is due to 3 types of rina, namely Rishi Rina, Deva Rina and Prithri Rina. Moondru kadan kalitta parpanum. The Taitri Samhita records that the Rishi Rina is paid by practicing the Vedas, Deva Rina by performance of homas, and Pitra Rina by begetting a progeny. Jayamano vai brahmano tribihi renava jayate brahmacharyena rishibhyaha yagnena devebhyaha prajaya pritubhyaha. Purananuru denote the Prithris by the words Tenpulam Varnarku, for they occupy the southern direction. This is affirmed by the Taitri Samhita mantra, which says Dakshina Pitaraha. The Vanaprastha, according to Salli and Kumaranar in Natrinai, possessed long hair and performed penance on the mountains without moving. Neediya Sadayodu Adameni Kundrurai Tavasiyar. The Tolkapiyar records that a person who has renounced his family is a sannyasi. Arulodu punananda vagarchiyanum, he says. Kathopanishad establishes that one who overcomes desire is eligible for Jivan Mukti. Yada sarve pramuchyante kama yesya hridi shritaha ata martyo amruto bhavati atra brahma samashnute. Tolkapiyam, the Purananaatrupadai, Madurai Kanchi and Thirukural also concur the same idea about the state. Ara iyarkai avanipin annilaye pera iyarkai tarum. Moving on to Agnihotra and Yajnas, here let us see some of the Vedic rituals and sacrifices as articulated in the Sangam literature. The Brahmanas perform Agnihotra with the use of Garhapatya, Ahavaniya and Dakshinagni twice a day to repay the Devaruna. This fact is recorded in the Purananuru, Pattinapalai, Kurinjipattu and Kalittogai and so on. Purananuru, it says, Andi Andanar Edirkola Ayarand Senti Sevvari Todanga. The Brahmanas perform the yajnas as prescribed in the mantras say Padittupattu, Kalittogai, Sirupanchamulam and Tirumurugatrupadai. Tirumurugatrupadai says, Mandira Vidin Marabuli Vara Andanar Velvi Yorkume. An interesting simile is used by Madurai Kannan Kutanar in his Karnarpadu. He compares the lighting to the effulgent sacrificial fire as Pochapi Ilada Pugal Velvi Tipola Echarum Innum Mare. The Perumbanaatrupadai and Agananuru record that during Yajnas, the sacrificial posts or yupas were constructed and they were fully covered using twisted cloth ropes. Velvi Kairarai Yata Kandataga Vanapin Arungadi Nedundun Pola. Many kings of the Sangam period also performed Yajnas, and it has been described by the poets of that time in their works. Some of them are Kauniyan, Palyagassalai Mudukudumi Peruvaludi, Selva Kadungo Variyadan, Rajasoyam Veta Perunar Killi, Nalankilli, and Karikar Peruvalattan. As prescribed in the four Vedas, Mudukudumi Peruvaludi collected all the ingredients for the Havis and performed the Yajnas. After that, to propagate his victory, he erected victory pillars or yupas in many places, records Purananuru as Yupam Natta Viyankalam Palakul. From the above poem, we come to know that the victory pillars were also referred to as Yupa. Kalidasa too, in his Raghuvamsha, uses the word Yupa in the same context when describing Kartaviryarjuna. Sangrama Nirvishta Sahasra Bahuhu Ashtadasha Dvipa Nikata Yupaha. Purananuru reveals that Peruvalantan, along with his wife, with the help of the Brahmanas, well versed in the Dharma and with Ritviks who were experts in the performing the sacrifice, performed the Garudashena Yajna and won laurels. And he says that Parudi Urivin Palpadai Purise for denoting the Garudashena Yajna. All living beings are endowed with an Atma and body. The body is called the Sharira and it is of three types, namely Stula Sharira, Shukshma Sharira and Karna Sharira. Till the Atma attains Mukti, it has only one Sukshma Sharira, but the Stula Sharira varies based on the world in which the Atma exists. Therefore, the Atma will leave the mortal body one day. This is clearly established in the Purananuru, the Agananuru, Perumbanaatrupadai and Purunar Aatrupadai. For the Atma that has left the body to be reborn, the pindas offered by the male progeny during the last rites is the food, says the Mahabharata. Ichanti pitaraha putrana sarvato swartha gatoho gatotkacha ihalokat pareloke taraishyanti ye hitaha. We can see the Dilipa lamenting in the Raghuvamsha at his lack of progeny, affecting and offering the pindas for his forefathers in the sloka that is given there. In case of no male progeny, the wife will have to offer the pindas, states the Purananuru. Pidiyadi anna siruvali meligi tannamar kadali punmel vaita Inchirupindam Yangu Undanan Kol. The deities worshipped during the Sangam age are Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Muruga. Balrama and Kottravai or Durga were also worshipped. Brahma, he is the creator of this universe and is said to have born from the navel lotus of Vishnu. He has 4 faces and his Vagana is the swan. All these information is available in texts like Kalitogai, Tirumurugatrupadai, Paripadal, and Perumanatrupadai says, Neelnira Uruvin Nediyon Kopur Nanmuga Uruvan Payanda Pal Idal Tamarai Pugutin Kan. And Mahabharata also gives the same thing. Tolkappiyam mentions Vishnu or Thirumal as the presiding deity of Mullai Thirai, Mayon Meya Kadurai Ulagamum. The other Tamil texts portray him as the bearer of Shankha and Chakra and goddess Lakshmi in his chest, blue-hued lord, lotus-eyed, Garuda as his Vagana, the measurer of the 3 worlds, the destroyer of Prahlada's father, slayer of the demon Keshi, etc. All the above instances are also seen in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The story of Lord Vishnu measuring the 3 worlds is found in the Rig Veda as Yasyorushu Trishu Vikramaneshu Adikshikyanti Bhuvanani Vishwa. Agananuru considers Lord Shiva and Vishnu as the 2 main deities. Veruvaru Kadundiral Iruperun Deivattu. The 5 epics and the various texts on Sangam literature depict Lord Shiva as the one who bears the Ganges and the moon on his head, the 3-eyed bearer of the Maru, Vrishabha as his Vagana, as Neelakanta and all. Moreover, he is said to have been born under the Tiruvadirai star, seated under the banyan, Uma as his consort, creator of the 5 elements and destroyer of the worlds during the proper time. The destruction of Tripura by the Lord is narrated in Kalitogai, Paripadal, and Purananuru. Purananuru says, Ongumalai Peruvil, Pambu, Nyan Kuli, Urukanai Kondu, Muvayil, Udatri, Peruviral Amarku, Ventri Tanda, Karaimidatri Annal. And Mahabharata says, Eka Banena Tam Devaha, Tripuram Parameshwaraha, Nijaghne Sasuraganam, Devadevo Maheshwaraha. Purananuru also registers that temples existed for Shiva as early as the second century BCE, and people worshipped him there. Paniyar Attai Nin Kudaye Munivar Mukkan Selvar Nagarvalan Cherke. Tolkappiyam designates Lord Muruga as the presiding deity of Kurunjittinai, Seyon Meya Maivarai Ulagamum. Nakkirar advises one to worship Lord Muruga and his 6 Padaiveedu for attaining moksha. This advice establishes that Muruga was worshipped as a warrior god. It is noteworthy that Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when talking about Atma Vibhuti, mentions Skanda as a warrior. Senaninam aham Skandaha. Kurundagai, Kalitogai, Paripadal, Tirumurugatrupadai and Mahabharata give an account of Muruga becoming the Deva Senapati. Vanor Vananguvir Tani Taleva, says Tirumurugatrupadai. And Mahabharata says, Senapatyena tam devaha pujayitva guhalayam sa vivruddho mahaviryo devasenapatihi prabhu. The Purananuru, Kalitogai, Paripadal, Karnarpada and Paramuri describe Balarama as fair complexioned, clothed in blue, elder to Krishna, having palm tree as his banner and plow as his weapon. So Purananuru says, Adalven Nanjir Padaikodi Onum, Palnira Uruvir Panaikodi Onum. And Paripadal says, Valayodu Purayum, Valiyorku Aman, Ilayan, Enborki Ilayai Adalum, Pudayirul Udukai, Polampanai Kodiyorku, Mudiyai Enborku, Mudumai Tontralum. Goddess Durga and Kottravai are the same. To gain victory in war and for accomplishments of all work, Tirumurugatrupadai and Nedulalvadai proclaims that people worship this deity. Vetri Velporku Kottravai Siruva. This is similar to the instances of Dharmaputra and Arjuna propitiating goddess Durga before entering into Virata and before the beginning of the war respectively. The consequences of karmas or deeds of previous birth are the basis for the pleasures or pains one experiences in this life. It is denoted by the terms Ur, Deivam, Vinay, Pal, etc. by the wise men. Thiruvalluvar tries to firmly establish the fact that though our deeds reflect upon our well-being, one's effort to do dharma is the real factor. He has dedicated a chapter in his text for Ur or karma. He further adds that the effect of one's deeds may continue for the 7 births or would affect immediately in this birth itself. Through this kural as Urin peruvali yavula matrundu Surinum tanmun durum Deivattan agadeninum muyarchitan meivarutha kulitarum. Purananuru indicates that some papas have expiation, whereas not for one who forgets gratitude for the help that has received. ஆண்முலை அறுத்த அறநிலோர்க்கும் மானிழை மகளிர் கருஞ்சிதைத்தோர்க்கும் பார்ப்பார் தப்பிய கொடுமையோர்க்கும் வழுவாய் மருங்கின் கழுவாயும் உளையன நிலம்புடை பெயர்வதாயினும் ஒருவன் செய்தி கொன்றார்க்கு உய்து இல் என. The Mahabharata says that expiation is not there for the Mahapatakas. Mahapataka varjam tu prayachittam vidiyate. Mukti or liberation is of 2 types, namely Videha Mukti and Jivan Mukti. The liberation attained after the Jiva leaves this body is termed as Videha Mukti. To be in Brahmaloka after liberation is called Aparamukti, and to become one with the Brahman is called Paramukti. Thiruvalluvar denotes Aparamukti by the term Nilam in the Kural, Malarmisai Eiginan Manadi Siyandar Nilamisai Needu Vaalvar. And Paramukti by the phrase Sirappenum Chempurul in the Kural, Pirappenum Pedamai Ninga Sirappenum Chempurul Kanbadarivu. And the meaning of Paramukti and Aparamukti in these 2 Kural can be found only in Parimalalagar Surai. From the ongoing study of the Sangam literature, we find ample evidence of the co-evolution of the Vedic and Sangam civilizations, 2 cultural streams that coexisted, interacted, and enriched one another's contributions to humanity. This lecture has highlighted some of the foundational evidence in the form of textual articulations in Sangam literature that resonates profoundly with Vedic cultural expressions. These articulations strongly indicate that the Indic civilization, while deeply rooted in the profound pan-Indic ethos, embraced and celebrated the diversity of local traditions. The question that confronts us today in the present-day scenario of Tamil Nadu is that whether the Vedic traditions are still in vogue, if so, their validity, if not, their need, and if needed, how do we revive them? To my knowledge, with a minimum awareness of 2 decades of politico-cultural chaotic situation in Tamil Nadu, it seems to me that the resurrection of these past values of Indian life is not only desirable but essential. Taking into consideration the British rule which turned the basic structure of Indian culture topsy-turvy and the later political changes that happened in Tamil Nadu appear to have undermined the values of our culture. However, all these have cast an effect at the superficial level without harming the roots of our culture. Take, for instance, the Varna system. Though not found today in the form of as elaborated in the scriptures, it still exists in spirit. We now have our own modern equivalents like teachers, doctors, lawyers, business people, soldiers, agriculturalists, and politicians, each performing a distinct social function. This suggests that the original Varna concept based on one's vocation and aptitude continues in a transformed form. However, we must remember that Varna and Jati, though often mistranslated together as caste, are conceptually distinct. Similarly, the Ashrama Dharma finds its reflection even today in the life of student, life of a householder, and the later stages corresponding to Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, which now manifest as elders living in old age homes or staying away from the children in pursuit of detachment and peace. The practice of worshipping in temples or performing puja and homa for the welfare of the mankind still persists. It seems to have had a period of oblivion during the independence movement because of other crucial problems. In Tamil Nadu, though people have questioned their validity, they had not lost faith in them. For many congregations, carrying out mass pujas and homas exist even today. Temple worship is also on the rise in comparison to its practice in the last few decades. More temples are also being built in addition to renovating and rejuvenating the dilapidated old structures. In all these, both people and government get involved. With regard to the philosophical concepts of belief in karma theory and belief in rebirth, it is still in us, lying dormant. When talking to elders, I realized that the fourth generation anterior to me, though soaked in Indianness, was also open to the wider world. While it imbibed valuable principles from our system, the next two generations that followed, however, caught up in the fervor of freedom movement and later in the exuberance of independence, began to question their own heritage. Swept by the winds of change, they tested and sometimes abandoned their own cultural values. Yet the generations immediately older to me have started adapting to some changes and going through the history of our previous generations. My generation, however, stands at a vantage point. We have the opportunity to learn from the errors and experience of the previous generations. And when we survey the entire journey with its ups and downs, its losses and renewals, it becomes clear that India as a whole and Tamil Nadu in particular have not been diminished by historical changes. The sense of the civilization remains unharmed, continuing to nurture and inspire. To conclude, what strikes me most is when talking about a country, we cannot take into consideration merely the elites, the freaks, and the changelings. Whatever the percentage may be, the mediocre mass is the backbone of the country, for they still remain Indian even to this day. So whatever the political or the sociological or industrial or economical or cultural innovations and reformations that have taken place in India and in Tamil Nadu, however much the chaos may appear to be, the undercurrent of the ancient Indian principles and ethos have not yet dried up. Thank you. I thank the endowment makers and also Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute and SAMSKRITA Academy for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
is not going to remain in the same pristine, pure form. There are interactions. When the interactions take place, and due to social compulsions and social necessities, etc., different things automatically evolve. And not only interactions among these four varnas, due to interaction with other people from other societies, from other countries, their invasions and what is called migrations, all those things are also there. So we cannot, when say, she has referred to Vaidika Marga in Sangam literature. When it is Vaidika Marga in Sangam literature, the comparative elements, it is not the evolution of Vaidika Marga, it is not where Sangam literature stopped or how it is being available today, how Sangam language, whether it has, how it is transforming itself into medieval Tamil and modern Tamil, it is not like that. It is a comparison of the elements available in one culture or in one situation in another literature. Two information she has provided. And that's an important information to us available, because sometimes we think there are so many exclusive elements. Say Tinai and all those things, Pal, Tinai. Say for example in Tamil you have got 5 Pals, whereas in Sanskrit you have got only 3, masculine, feminine and neuter. Whereas Anpal, Pinpal, Ondranpal, Palarpal, Palavinpal. Here the Pal itself is different type of culture. And singular plural is not directly. See, Uyardinai, Akhrinai, that sort of what is called change is there. So whatever is there in masculine gender in other languages will come under Akhrinai, and that will be referred to in a neuter way. Singam Vandan, அப்படின்னு நீங்க தமிழில் translate பண்ணேன்னா என்ன ஆகும்? நம்மளுக்கு தெரிஞ்சதோ தெரியலையோ, தெரிஞ்சு எழுதுறானா தெரியாம எழுதுறானான்னு ஆயிடும். But whereas Simmaha Agachati, you say Sanskrit, strictly if you translate Singam Vandannu தான் எழுதணும். ஆனா சிங்கம் வந்ததுன்னு தான் நம்ம தமிழில் translate பண்ண முடியும் இல்லையா? So this sort of Thinai and other things are special, but she has said, I want to refer, that is இதுல கலித்தொகை, I think குறுந்தொகைன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். குறுந்தொகையில் தான் இவர் கபிலர். குறுந்தொகையில் கபிலர் எழுதுறார். பொய்யும் வழுவும் புகுந்தன பின்னர் ஐயர் யாத்தனர் கரணம் என்ப அப்படின்னு அங்கே இதில் சூத்திரம். முதல்ல என்ன இருந்ததுனாக்கா களவு கற்பு அப்படின்னு ரெண்டு மனம் இருந்தது. There were 2 types of marriages, களவு and கற்பு. These 2 types of marriages have to be given a go by. Then the 8 types of marriages which were available in the Dharma Shastras were accommodated. And they were accommodated in Kurundogai, and they have not simply borrowed them. It is not simply accommodation. The later 4 marriages, which were not considered to be strictly, what to say, not, they were legal, but strictly ritualistic. Because there, in those 4 marriages, the change of Gotra doesn't take place. So, the lady remained in her family. Family means she belongs to her family like that. And those 4 marriages were included in Kaikalai, and the first 3, they were included in Perundinai and the Gandharva marriage, which is like Kalavu. So you can understand how even when things were accommodated, they were accommodated like Lakshmana being accommodated as Ilakuvan. These are also accommodated with the Thinai within these things. So it's not something what is called interfering or something being forcing itself or somebody bringing it, all those things, but people thoughtfully, meaningfully accommodating it. So within the Thinais and all those things. So this sort of evolution is very there, and she has beautifully brought out. And not only that particular thing. Say for example, when Silappadigaram, when Kovalan and Kannagi, they are going to Madurai, they have to be guided properly to Madurai because it is too much of forest areas in between. And Madala Marayon, it was what is called a Vedic scholar who was available, who was wandering, and his name also is Madala. That name Madala, etc. is a rare Sanskrit names, and that's available here. In this way you can find Aruduril Marayor. That is a frequent usages in Purnanur and Ahananur. If you see Aruduril Marayor, so Brahmins are considered to be having 6 Yajana Yajana, Dhyana, Adhyapana, Dana, Pratigraha. So that is a frequent references. You can find Aruduril Marayor like that. That's the most. So in this way you can find. And another thing, that the beautiful help was done by, that is given extended by Mr. Mahadevan. He has written one book called Tondattasi. That is, in Tirumular's Tirumandiram, the word Tattvamasi is not directly used like that. Tvam Tadasi. Tattvamasi he has reinterpreted as Tvam Tadasi, and I think it would have been used a minimum of 60 to 100 times he would have used it. So he has collected almost all the usages where this Tattvamasi word has been used. All the Tirumandiram Padals he has collected and then he has presented. I think we have released that book in through KSRI. Like that, so that itself shows how beautifully the cultures have been integrated. How beautifully. Aryamum, that is if you just look at the Devaram, Thiruvachakam, etc. and Divya Prabandham, Aryamum, Tenthamilum, Anan Kandai. In this way, they would have presented all those things. So that becomes important point, and this research has been set on motion by Dr. P.S. SUBRAHMANYA Sastrigal, and he has written book VAIDIKA MARGA Tamilum. And not only that, there was Puttur Advocate Krishnaswamy Iyengar. He has VAIDIKA MARGAM, and that has also been written by many other people. Mave M.V. Pasupati, he has collected many of such informations and presented it in Kamakoti Pradipam. So there are many books available. Okay, but the availability of all these books in no way belittles or brings down the importance of Vidyuta's work and her paper. So I appreciate her paper. She has beautifully presented. Okay, any doubt, etc., we can just wait for some time later, or privately you can ask, because this is only an endowment lecture. Endowment lecture is beyond comments and questions. And we are not arranging this year any lectures for questions. So you can privately contact the persons and then get all those things. I thank Dr. P.N. Natarajan and his family members for arranging this particular endowment for this lecture. And he has arranged it in the name of his, he was the mathematics professor in Vivekananda College, my colleague. And he has arranged this particular lecture to perpetuate the memory of his father, because his contributions were not very much known outside. Say, only few people, some interesting things are not what is called coming to the light of the public, and he wanted to bring it, so he made this endowment. And another one was Professor R.N. Sampath, who also happened to be Sastri Chudamani professor here at KSRI. And in his father's name, Karlapakkam RAGHU NARASIMHACHARI, he has instituted, and one common element between these two endowments are, both of them belong to the field of grammar. In fact, P.S. Sastrigal, he has rendered Tolkappiyam for the first time in English transliteration and translated the entire work. And he has also rendered entire Mahabhashya, nearly 14 volumes published by KSRI, into English. So that's a yeoman service done by him, and both of them belong to grammatical area. And not only that, his thesis was on the evolution of grammatical theories in Tamil. So in this way, he has done very yeoman service. And Karlapakkam RAGHU NARASIMHACHARI also, and we can, just by the name of this endowment, we can understand that Panini Day. So we thank the endowment makers. We thank the great scholars for making us understand, making us realize, making us follow what is really greatness in our languages, Tamil and Sanskrit, and all of you. Without you, the lectures and endowments become meaningless. I thank every one of you. And I thank Vidyuta also. Next week, and as a memento, we present this cash memento to Vidyuta.
Next week we have a lecture by Dr. Ambika Kameshwar on the Sanskrit songs on Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi at 3:30. Thank you. 11th, exactly next week.